Is the Institute of Noetic Sciences, Vancouver, Washington Community Group. We serve members and friends of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, a nonprofit organization dedicated to research and education on consciousness, human potential, and personal and social transformation. We have as our guest tonight, we're excited to have Johnny Stallings. Um, he was originally from Montana. His family moved to Portland, Oregon when he was 8, and in his 20s, he traveled a lot and lived for 2 years in India studying with yogis. Over the years, when people ask him what you do, he would say, I'm an actor. I've read plays, seen films based on plays, written plays, acted in plays, and directed plays. In Shakespeare's day, I would have been called a player. That means something different now. Gives you a little insight into his humor. In 2006, he began doing weekly meaning of life dialogues at Two Rivers Prison in Umatilla, Oregon. After 2 years, one of the men in the dialogue circle who was serving a life sentence asked him if he would do a play with them. After weekly dialogues and more plays continuing until 2019, he said the most profound aspect of the whole experience was the love part. In a circle, we can see through the masks. When we do that, it's impossible not to love each other. In September of 2019, he started a new nonprofit organization, The Open Road, a learning community that nurtures inner transformation through classes, talks, dialogue groups, study groups, performances, workshops, seminars, and retreats in order to promote peace, love, happiness, and understanding. He's written a book which was recently published called The Nonstop Love-In by Johnny Stallings. It's a wonderful book. I finished reading it and I recommend it. So, Johnny, take it away.
Thanks, Dottie. And thanks, Victoria, for introducing me to Dottie and suggesting that I be a guest. I don't have uh, I'm unaccustomed to public speaking. I have done a lot of dialogue, and so I said to Dottie that I'd just talk a little bit and get the ball rolling, and then I'd prefer to have just a conversation with everybody. Uh, um, and I'll just say a little bit about uh, my journey. Okay, so when I was 19, I read Autobiography of a Yogi, like a lot of other people did, and I was really intrigued. Uh, Yogananda spoke about something called samadhi, and he described it as being blissful, a state of bliss. And anyway, I was very intrigued with this, and I thought, gosh, when I went to the Methodist church, nobody ever said anything about anything like this. So I was, okay, it's 1969, and there's all kinds of stuff coming in from the East. Uh, the I Ching, the Tao Te Ching, Krishnamurti, etc. So I was looking at a lot of these things. And like a year later, I think I met a Swami from India named Nitya Chaitanya Yati, and he was teaching a course on Bhagavad Gita at Portland State. And I was just auditing the class, but he invited me to come to India, and I did. And I met his teacher, a man named Nataraja Guru, and it was turned out to be the last year of Nataraja Guru's life. And I spent that year with him. And both of these men were very, I was a student of Nitya's for about 10 years, and both of these men were very uh, bookish. I mean, they read a lot of books about everything, psychology, philosophy, etc., East and West. So it was kind of uh, uh, so that was a very exciting experience for me. Um, and oh, I forgot to mention that after I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I sent in to the Self-Realization Fellowship for their meditation course by mail. So I started meditating. And then when I went to India, more of that kind of thing and studying the Vedanta philosophy. Um, so uh, for me, meditation and mindfulness are very fundamental and important and central to my life. And I can't just can't imagine what my life would be like without those things. And at a certain point, when I was about 40, uh, I I got the hang of something, that Yogananda had been talking about, I think, and that he called samadhi, which is the experience of thought and language falling away, and the to be able to enjoy periods of inner stillness. And I suppose that doesn't really sound very exciting, but uh, for those previous 20 years, I think I was trying really hard to get something that was elusive. And the trying to get it kind of was part of why I couldn't get it, you might say. So, uh, at present, I'd say I'm kind of Zenish. I'm not actually a Buddhist and I'm not actually anything, but reading old Zen texts and modern teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh is a particular favorite of mine. And what they say is very congenial to me. And so, okay, so I guess one more thing I'll throw in is that I did meaning of life dialogue groups with men in prison for 19 years, 19, no, 13 years. 13 years every week I had these long conversations with men in prison. And what you were saying, Dottie, about noetic science, what it is, and that it has to do with personal transformation and human potential. Uh, our conversations in prison were really uh, about kind of the meaning of life. They were very immediate. And I didn't have a particular philosophy or idea that I was trying to teach anybody, but just the process of a group conversation where people talk about what they most urgently feel they need to talk about, um, was kind of like a discovery that uh, so I'd go to prison every week and I'd have these great conversations for 3 hours. And then the rest of the week, I wouldn't have anything remotely like that, which was kind of funny. I thought, why, why aren't people kind of sitting around doing what the noetic scientists are doing, getting together and talking about big things? So, anyway, I do that every week with some friends now. And so I don't know if this is of much interest or anything, but uh, if people want to start uh, talking about kind of their own journeys, and I mean, you could ask questions, I suppose, or just share your thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to put it back on gallery so that we can see everybody on this screen. Norma?
Just now you talked about working with someone in prison, and I naively sent letters to uh, death row uh, incarcerated people in the Oregon prison, asking if we. I mean, I was working with someone who was working with them, And she was helping me be able to ask them for an exhibition at our West Hills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We have a beautiful gallery there. And it was the year that there's a men's magazine that, and they took photographs of uh, death row inmates. And I, I, I wrote asking 17 people, and I got letters from each, from them. And that's when someone said that people do bad things, but that doesn't mean they're bad. And the letters I got were just, there were some people who I asked them about drawing, and some people sent drawings, and it was an incredible experience to to hear them be us. um, we as people, we're so the same. It was a good education for me anyway.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think a lot of people, I mean, I think we all carry around stereotyped ideas of criminals and prisoners, and it's kind of shocking for people to get to meet people who are in prison and see, their own humanity like just reflected the way that we're all doing right now. Same thing would be happening if we had a Zoom going on and eight people from prison in the Zoom randomly. It wouldn't really change much at all.
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
I I'd say one of the things I learned by going to prison a lot is that um, there is the idea that there's one kind of person in prison and then a different kind outside of prison. That's not the case, really. Uh, I spent a few hours yesterday afternoon with a guy who went to prison at the age of 17. He was given a life sentence, and he may he's going to the parole board on the 15th of April, and it's possible that he'll be out of prison within 90 days. I hope he is. Um, he's 40 years old now, so he's been in for 23 years. He's one of the smartest, best read, most interesting people I've ever met. He's full of wisdom, and uh, as we're talking, he's quoting in Arabic and Hebrew and all kinds of things. He's like a uh, kind of genius, um, and uh, he's he's in my sense of things, he's way ahead of most people on the outside in terms of his development as a human being. He's an extraordinary guy.
I was noticing. Thank you. Yeah.
And when we did plays, people, um, the audience members, some of whom were family and friends of the actors, but others were just coming to see a play. Um, Many people, their favorite part was not actually the play, but after the play, when the men sat and talked about and answered questions and you got to know them a little bit, and people were, it didn't fit their idea of who they would find in prison because the men were thoughtful and
Mm.
funny and uh,
Mm.
generous spirit.
Wow. I think what fascinated me about that was what you said, people, if, or maybe Norma said, it's not, you do one bad thing and you're put away for life, and then it defines who you are forever. Even if you get out, then you're still a criminal. And people don't have a second chance, but they grow. People grow and wake up and come out, and they don't have a chance to express that on the outside, it seems like, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that 15 years in prison would change you somehow, and it could make you worse. And I
Mm.
mean, not everybody has a big dramatic transformation. It's going to change you somehow. And it might be a little bit for the better, a little bit for the worse, or it could be dramatically,
Mm.
uh, it could be a profound positive change, which was the case with this not so young man. He's 40 now. But one of it's not that doesn't happen to everybody, but I did with him.
One
Mm.
man sent me a letter and he was seeing my naivety in doing this. And he was so kind and grounded in telling me that this was naive. And I saw that it was. And he was like a teacher. They all were. I mean, the ones who communicated were teaching
Sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
something we don't, we won't experience. Right.
Mm.
Thank you.
So this was billed as a dialogue with Johnny Stallings. So he's invited us to share.
Jump
And
in, anyone.
maybe you have something else, Victoria.
Well, no, did some, yeah.
No?
Well, so now I have kind of two questions at this point. Johnny, were you aware of this 40-year-old man at different points while he was in prison? And do you have any sense of what the transformational point was? Maybe you don't. I just
Well, I mean, he was in the dialogue group with me at
was.
Two Rivers, so I got to know him pretty well there. And subsequently, I've gotten letters from him and we've talked on the phone and I've visited him in prison, so I've gotten to know him better.
Mm.
Uh, he, if I'm remembering right, uh, I know that when he went to prison, he was very angry and he got into trouble a lot. Uh, as for the turning point, I'm not sure. One thing in the dialogue group one day, he said, we're just talking about things, and he said, when I turn 40, I'm going to kill myself. I've made a
Mm.
vow. He has a life sentence, and he had decided that that's what he was going to do. And I said, no, no, Carl, like, you can't do that. We need you. And, I don't know if that was a deciding factor or not, but one time he came up to me after a play and he just like got his face right in my face and he said, "You saved my life."
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
But the uh yeah, I don't know a story about like what opened up his world. Although I think that both the dialogue group and the theater like helped with that because it's a bleak place, prison, and to uh,
Mm.
have something human, actually human, is potentially transformative.
Mm.
Yeah, and to be seen and treated as a human too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so just were you surprised at the words that came out of your mouth? Did they just kind of come out that to him?
Uh, well, that's funny. Well, from the beginning, the dialogues were just really deep, and I think that the fact that it was in prison had something to do with that. Like, I mean, I actually I've experimented at the Unitarian Church, the one downtown. My friend Katie Raditz was in charge of the adult uh, learning, adult education program for a number of years, and I tried some experiment with a dialogue and at the church, and these are well-educated liberal folks, and it was a very pleasant conversation, you know, but it didn't like in prison there's some other thing. There's a kind of urgency. There's a kind of it's um, uh, I mean they needed connection in a way
Mm.
that a thirsty person needs water. So it wasn't just kind of get together and share thoughts and stuff. It was kind of, life and death in a certain way. I mean,
Mm.
the example I gave with Carl is a kind of extreme example, but a lot of people try to kill themselves in prison. Some succeed and some don't. Uh,
Mm.
but but it that doesn't get it either. The Because it's one thing to survive and get through your 10 years or your 12 years in prison or whatever it is and come out, and still standing. Uh, but what we were really asking in the dialogue group was, could you actually thrive? I mean, could you wake up? I didn't know the answer to this question, and each person kind of had to answer it for themselves. Could you wake up in prison? You've been in 6 years, you've got 7 more years to go. Could you wake up in the morning and say, and bless the day, say thank you, be happy to be alive and to find something. I mean, to really uh, feel that your life is rich and your life is good. And as it turns out, you can you can do that in prison. But I would imagine that most people who are serving time in prison, this hasn't even occurred to them.
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Do we do that? You know,
I mean, I think their problem is the same problem that each one of us has. You get out of bed in the morning, it's a new day, you know, and the possibilities uh, aren't actually limited in terms of happiness or goodness or love. And so, I mean, so I'll ask this question to maybe get a more of an all-around dialogue going. Um, what you do, each person could say something about um, what you what your practices are or what things you do to ensure that a, a particular day of your life, like this one or tomorrow, is like we only get a limited number of these things, right? And so you think, well, okay, I want this day to be extraordinary, like good. What do you do to kind of find that?
Betty? Milt? And then Darlene.
Putting her hand up. But your microphone's turned off, Darlene.
Oh. I guess you're second, Milt.
Today was the first day of spring, or actually, I guess yesterday was the first day of spring. And there's been a lot of discussion in various interfaces and media about rebirth and renewal and looking into oneself and finding that what motivates, what inspires. And I've been doing, in general, a lot of thinking about what you talked about, which is the what sort of activities, what sort of processes do you instill or participate with on a daily basis to inspire you to look for the passion and the creativity that you want to have in your life. And today was I was inspired by a group that had elicited a global prayer, and I participated. It was only 5 minutes, but it felt like it was a connection to humanity, and it was globally. I mean, there are hundreds and millions of people all over the planet who participated in this. And that sort of thing, I guess, is one of the things that I look to inspire myself.
Milt, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to wait and see if Johnny had a response.
A response?
Go ahead, Milt.
Yeah, I want to change the subject quite a bit here, because I think I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the system, and we are so oriented towards punishment. I found that a lot working, although I'm not an educator by profession, working in the education system, how much the schools were focused on punishment. Um, and and I do have people that I went to school with and so forth, one who's spent most of his life in the Oregon State prison system. Um, and I think you can kind of generalize it, like each of us are working in a culture where we're conditioned to believe certain things, and it creates barriers. And then we talk to people in other cultures, as you did when you went to India and so forth, and they see the world differently. They see social order differently. Uh, some talk more about being a real human being, what it's all about. And I have worked with two people who worked uh, quite quite diligently in the mental institution, both of whom came away thinking the problem is the system more than the inmates.
Mhm.
And so I don't think this is maybe so much as a conversation that you would have in the system with the prisoners in any moment. You might have it, but something you would come away from that and think about yourself like, wow, this is a pretty good guy or a pretty good set of guys I'm working with. How did they go astray like this? And why were they punished so harshly? Um, and uh, there got to be a lot of frustrations with trying to help someone reform themselves when they're embedded in a process like you're working in.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever whatever you have to say about the system itself. And
Well, of course, I thought a lot about the uh, prison system. Uh, what I was doing was not, didn't really have to do with prison reform. I was taking it as it is, meeting people as they are, and just having conversation. And I wasn't even trying to like improve them or change them or make them better people. I didn't have a uh, an agenda like that. I was getting together with them in a way for the same reason that we're getting together this evening, just to be with each other, or the when you go out for friends with friends for coffee. Why do you do that? Well, I mean, something that we just have to do if we're people. And in prison, it doesn't really, the prison is designed to not let you actually do that. So somebody actually had to come in from me from the outside and set a time and invite people into the space because uh, essentially it wasn't allowed just in the prison. So our the United States incarcerates a higher percentage of its population than any other country in the world, including Turkey, including Russia, including fill in the blank. Also, our sentences are longer than any other country in the world. So we do have the harsh, it's correct perception that we have a harsh, punitive, uh, extremely punitive system. And there are efforts in Oregon to take Oregon. Um, they really have been talking for the last, I don't know, 20 years at least, about making prison a more human place. And they had something called the Oregon model, and it was supposedly based on Norway. And administrators went to Norway and they brought people from the Norwegian prison system here, and guards went, and there was this big exchange. And the idea was that Oregon's prison system was to be like a Scandinavian prison system. And I don't know why, but 20 years later, it's it's no better. It hasn't improved. It hasn't really changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. So uh, that's a to your point about like why people go into prison. It's here's a kind of a horrible thing, which is that some years ago when they were still expanding the prison system in Oregon, um, they want to know, they want to predict, it takes a while to build a prison, so they want to know how many people they're going to need to incarcerate. And so what they would do was go into, I think, fourth grade classes, and they could predict, you know,
Mm.
they could just see who was going to an Ivy League school, who was going to prison. And so uh, basically, in my view, the highest predictor for prison is family of origin. So if you if you're born in one house, you're off to Catlin Gable School and then on to Harvard or Smith or whatever. But if you're born in this other house, you know, it's not like that. There's violence and drugs and just chaos. And so it's kind of overdetermined. The first part of our life, I believe, is kind of overdetermined by the completely chance factor of the family that we're born into. Uh, then one of the things you look at when you're talking to guys in prison is, okay, it's not a big surprise that you came to prison, given your that. But do you have a chapter two? I mean, could you like look at it? Could you, now that you're grown up, could you re-examine it and say, like, um, kind of understand how you got there, and like imagine a different kind of life for yourself than the one you've had up to this point, where you got into this kind of trouble and took these kind of drugs and had these kinds of friends, and that's who you are now. Like that's me. But could you imagine something different, rather than you're just going to keep doing this? You'll get out in 5 years, and then you'll be back 4 years later, and then and just, are you going to do that your whole life? I mean, because that's a possibility, but could you imagine uh, something something better for yourself, and just to ask, for a person to ask themselves that question is potentially uh, makes that a possibility, I think.
Mm. Is that a question that you asked? Oh, sorry, Norma, or that was asked in those groups?
Oh, we asked every question imaginable, but um, again, I wasn't a release counselor or a psychologist or anything like that, but but I just, because I loved everybody, I wanted, like you would for your nephew or for your kid, you would want the best for them. And so you would ask them the kind of questions that you would ask your nephew or your kid if they had gotten into trouble or gotten addicted to drugs. Uh and yeah.
Mm. Mm.
And thank you, thank you for what you do, Johnny, and thank you for that. I went to school where there was a pretty wide range of socioeconomic, and I think that kind of prediction thing that you mentioned could easily have happened there. And particularly by the time we were in the sixth or seventh grade,
Yeah.
it was prominent. Um, and I don't want to take a lot too much of your time, but I had a opportunity to talk with Michael Franke, who was the superintendent of prisons in Oregon, shortly before he was killed.
Yeah.
And and he was really a good person. I could imagine him being part of that Norway
Yeah. Yeah.
to do what was best. He's really a good person. But he described how tough it was because going to prison conditioned a lot of these people to just be tougher.
Yeah.
You just had to be tough
Yeah.
to survive in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think the questions that you're posing there about waking up in the morning and um, are very important outside of the prison too.
Yeah.
Very important outside of the prison because to whatever degree, we're all in a very hierarchical system. And all of us that work for a living ran into situations that were way beyond our control. You may have wanted to fix or reform something, but there was not a prayer
Yeah.
changing it or making it better. So when you're in a colonizing country that's where every institution is hierarchically organized and so forth, I look at us, we are colonizers. We're worldwide colonizers, America. And we are colonized ourselves.
Sure.
So the
Uh,
prison system as it exists is an outgrowth of,
so do you think in an unfree system you could be free?
what?
In an unfree system, could you be free?
Um, only to a degree. Only to a degree. I mean, there's things that I want to do with purpose of my life that virtually can't be successful. I mean, I'm just talking about climate change and sustainability.
Sure.
We have barriers, unbelievable barriers that just can't be. Um, I'm 85 in a couple of weeks, so I'm in a residential home where it's mostly older people. I'm probably about the average age, and most of them have been very successful, and they are absolutely unmoved in terms of being defensive about what they did. And,
Mm.
scientists are defensive about being scientists and can't look at the science that we're practicing
Yeah.
as being part of the problem. We just can't do it. So,
Well, I'm gonna say something about how I um, uh, from in my own experience, I was a Vietnam draft resistor, and uh, by 1970 or so, I kind of had caught on to what was happening to the environment and stuff. And I had high hopes that war would come to an end and that we would live ecologically and in harmony and love and so on. And it's been, I think, very discouraging to people with those kinds of hopes and dreams, to see, the violence and the injustice uh, and what we're doing to the earth, just continues. Um, what I feel like is that in good times or bad, uh, kind of the same things are required of me. What I've lost is the idea that I might kind of change, I might be part of something that's going to change the world and make it wonderful. Like I don't really expect that to happen. But something I've been talking to my friends about for the past couple of years is that in addition to everything we read in the newspaper every day, there are 10 zillion things that aren't in the newspaper. Like spring. That's how we started our conversation today. And everybody was pretty happy about the way the trees are blossoming. And that's real. I mean, that's more real than Vladimir Putin or fill in the blank, in my view. And I feel like I'm still naively, uh, I want to live in peace and love and happiness, even if it doesn't catch on, even if it's the losing team, because I just want to live that way. And uh, I guess one of the things I feel is that it has been ever thus in terms of violence. I don't think there was a happy day 100 years ago or 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So these horrors that we see that are very disturbing, they're actually not new. I mean, the 2024 election isn't the beginning. It's not. Uh, it, it's it's kind of familiar,
mhm.
but also, um, at this moment, I mean, on planet Earth, how many women are breastfeeding their babies at this moment? I have no idea, but it's a big number. It's not in the newspaper. And and so I mean people 99% of 0.9% of people at this moment on planet Earth are being friendly to each other, or they're just eating dinner, or they're teaching kindergarten, or they're gardening, or they're fixing the plumbing. They're just doing all the things that people do, and that's actually who we are. And as far as the climate thing goes, which I mean, I can't see it other than as actually a tragic situation. Uh, because I don't think that there was a bad person one day who decided to make all this happen. I think it kind of evolved along with, science and technology and civilization and population. And uh, it's like we were trying to make uh, a pleasant life for us humans. Like I've got this nice house, I got electric lights, I can take a hot shower. It's very pleasant. I enjoy it. But you multiply it by 8 billion people, and that's not good for the birds and the, uh, everybody else who lives here. But we're very late coming to that understanding. And uh, and just by kind of analogy, um, I would guess in Gaza at this moment and in Lebanon at this moment, there are people who are being kind to each other. They're fixing dinner. They're helping each other out. They're patching up the people who got bombed. They're doing uh, and if the whole situation, the whole planetary situation is catastrophic, we're still required to be the healers, to be the helpers, to contribute in any way we can based on our own gifts to the happiness and well-being of everybody, including the birds and the butterflies and everyone.
Mm.
I wasn't going to give a big talk, but I just did.
Yeah. How did you get started doing the prison dialogues?
Um, just by chance. I mean, I haven't planned anything in my life, so uh, I visited a prison because the county commissioner was organizing a tour of a prison, and I just went along, and I was kind of surprised by what I saw, and I offered to do a performance there, and they said okay, and then when I did that, I met the prison residents, and they kept inviting me back, and at a certain point, I was enjoying it so much, and they were enjoying it so much that that's how that happened.
Okay. Mm.
And we were doing dialogue group for 2 years before one of the guys asked me if I'd like to do a play with them. So then we started doing plays.
Mm. So you've done a lot of Shakespeare work.
Yeah, no, Shakespeare is the best.
Yeah, because they still apply. Right? His writings still apply. Is that right?
Well, for actors, it's not, it's like uh, you get to enjoy Shakespeare in an especially uh, privileged way because you get to learn the lines and play the roles and you know, it's kind of I think, official consensus that he's the greatest playwright who ever lived and also the greatest poet in the English language. And so when you immerse yourself in those worlds, It's just the most fun you can have as an actor or
Mhm.
director.
Mm.
I mean, it's torture for all the high school English students, who have to read the plays. But for actors, it's something else.
Because the language is so different. Yeah.
Well, no, the thing is, the language is so much a part of the pleasure. Uh,
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
but that's not everybody's experience with Shakespeare. Um, but for theater people, that's like,
Mhm.
the paradise.
So you said you had a samadhi experience?
I have them every day.
Ah.
It's not a, uh, it's not one thing is, uh, it's kind of, uh, you come across this in the Zen literature quite a bit, but uh, th for me, the miracle isn't, uh, I don't know if somebody could levitate or do some magical thing. Um, like it seems to me that absolutely everything, without exception, is miraculous.
Mm.
Actually and in fact, uh, the the electric lights, the rug on the floor, the everybody's favorite examples, of course, are hummingbirds and flowers, and rightly so. But a glass of water is an impossible thing, and I think what meditation and mindfulness are about is kind of slowing down, letting the inner dialogue fall away that's trying to figure everything out, and that I'm an important person and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and just kind of slowing down and paying attention and appreciating the blessings, the incredible blessings of like breathing in and out, of having eyesight, of having thoughts, of having an imagination, like all these things. They're so impossible. And uh, people are walking their dogs, and you go like, all the dogs are so beautiful, but the people are beautiful too. And uh, the uh, what's what's astonishing is to me is that we get used to everything, like spring, like
Mm.
uh, like maybe I don't know, 15 times today, maybe uh, a certain tree or a certain flower like really got you. You really felt it, and you're just in love with the world and with life. And then you're walking along and you're thinking about this and you're thinking about that. And then you see this tree that's just budding out and you're astonished. But what's weird is that we get used to trees. That we get used to flowers like, oh, I've seen flowers before. Yeah, daffodils, they're yellow. Um, but I think that meditation is about slowing down and being astonished the way like a
Mm.
2-year-old is when they walk around the block. It takes them all day to get around the block because there's so many amazing things that they find. And so for me, like, uh, I guess that's extremely important for me personally is that I um, become in the course of a day, if some white clouds are floating by in the blue sky and I'm not astonished, I mean, I'm ashamed of myself, you know.
Mm. Mm.
But you were saying something, Darlene. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to ask, in my experience, it isn't the thing that I observe, it's how I define it. So the thing of the meditation might be a miracle if I define it as so. And having this experience is something that you ingrain in yourself as opposed to the fact that it exists. Just because it exists, and if you don't see it as a miracle or a marvelous thing, then you'll never see it as a marvelous thing. And so it's all a shift in perspective.
But also, it's a shift in feeling. It's not just thinking, because you can think, oh yeah, everything's miraculous. I know that already. But it's how often does that actually hit you? And so I think of it as perfect moments. Like I think my thoughts on enlightenment are that there's a kind of myth that the Buddha or all these different guys they got like enlightened, and then they were enlightened, and then they were somehow I don't know what. But I think the Satori experience or the Samadhi experience or the enlightenment experience is the most ordinary thing in the world, and everybody knows about it. And it's really a matter of like paying attention to it and appreciating it and kind of nurturing it a little bit, like looking for it and kind of keeping your window open so that the breeze might blow in.
That those words are what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and so that's my mysticism. Like when I say I experience samadhi every day, I'm not kidding, but I don't. But I'm not bragging either. I don't think it's a big thing. I think it's a little thing. Uh, but when I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I thought it was a big thing, and I had to go to India to get some, you know. But actually, uh, uh, it's it, feelings of gratitude or appreciation are something that can just kind of grow on a person, I think.
Mhm.
Mhm.
For me, it's been developing that awareness, that recognition, that intentional looking for the joy and looking for the gratitude and looking for the, as you said, and that's been my path.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think everybody's doing it uh, uh, with greater or lesser success or something. I don't know, but I mean, one of the ideas is that everybody is seeking happiness, and some people are really on the wrong track, but uh, yeah, I think that uh, I don't believe that there's a kind of permanent state of enlightenment. I think that's
Mm.
a myth, but that everybody knows about perfect moments, and sometimes a moment doesn't really have a boundary. I mean, it doesn't really have a beginning or an end necessarily. We think of them as being very short, but they actually don't have anything to do with time. And so, but those beautiful experiences, um, uh, I don't know. I guess it's selfish of me, but I kind of I cherish them, and they're more interesting to me than the headlines. With the headlines, it seems like I've heard it all before. Oh, we just started a new war. Oh, great. Like brilliant. Whose idea was that? Uh, but it's familiar, and ultimately, besides being terrible and horrifying, it's boring. I mean, from this distance.
Mm. Mm.
It's so unimaginative.
True. I have those experiences you were talking about when I'm with trees. When I'm in like a grove of trees, I feel the trees. I feel like I'm one with the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or with flowers or
Yeah. Yeah.
my orchids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, may I make a contribution?
Yes.
I really appreciate everything I've heard here tonight. Um, Johnny, I think that we're contemporaries. I also was 19 at the same time and read autobiography, and there are many similarities. And Milt, I feel your pain in terms of the despair of the failure of our mission in our generation. And recently, myself, I think, have really been working essentially to begin with the big A word, acceptance and willingness in the morning to start with gratitude and then go forward with honesty, extreme honesty and compassion for myself, and sort of beginner's mind. Um, as I am in the middle of all of this excoriating pain in the world and the beauty at the same time, I was thinking just be real and use all the tools and have a sense of curiosity and also for myself willingness to participate, to be embodied, and to use any tools that I have to attempt to do what I can to transmute my experience with the tools to envelop things, to be encompassed, recognized, and owned, and transmuted through love, and then released back to the matrix. Uh, and the humility to be small and not to have been able to save the world, and to forgive myself, and the sense of guilt. And then to have a sense of wonder of expectation. It's been an incredible day for me. We've been having this incredible atmospheric river here. Today, the spring broke through. There were many changes today that were miraculous and astoundingly various and different for myself throughout the day. I've worked at remaining present through the whole time, and this afternoon I was invited up the street to my neighbor's little art party of finger painting with their 2-year-old and their cat, and they're 40-something-year-olds, and I'm your age, and these various people, and the crows, and we just had this complete adventure. And the little boy who doesn't speak yet was just like making this connection with me, and it
Wow.
was like, just the whole authenticity of what was going on. Um, it was enough solace for me to be restored um, in my sensitivity with everything that's been going on around me. Um, so there's this vicissitude and a feeling of choosing to be willing to be real and to continue to participate and to still um, know that I don't know everything. I know a lot. I'll do what I can. And I don't have the final answer. I just wanted to put that out there because it's part of what I'm saying. I appreciate everybody here and everything I'm hearing. I spent a lot of time alone. I'm selective about where I do participate. I really appreciate this group, and I just wanted to give a voice to something instead of just sitting here not saying anything.
Thank you. Yeah, lucky you to get to spend time with that 2-year-old.
There were two of them and a cat
Wow.
and a teenager who wanted to dialogue. and tell me about science and things. And
Wow.
Wow.
I learned so much from these people. I was like, oh, he was talking about squirrels and all the science about how intelligent they are. I was just like, to really listen and not have to be in a role or anything else, but just to be who I was. It was so rich.
Hmm.
I was listening to an audio book of Joseph Campbell's book called it A Joseph Campbell Companion, and one of the reflections on the art of living. And one of the phrases that he uses again and again, because it was like a personal kind of insight for him that he found helpful, is he says, joyful participation in the sorrows of the world.
Mhm.
And I I think one of the things that I've talked about with my friends over the past couple of years is, um, that one of the ideas that's kind of in the air is that you shouldn't be happy, dot, 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 at a time like this,
Mhm.
But one thing I think is it has been ever thus. So, like, uh, are you are you supposed to wait to some later date when it might be okay to be happy? In other words, there's this feeling that you should be um, weighed down with sorrow. And I don't know. Uh, it's really mysterious to me. I don't know um, how much compassion or empathy I have on a scale compared to other people. Uh, but I don't. I don't feel that I ignore or dismiss the reality of suffering or injustice, or the terrible topics that tend to consume us, that we're reminded of when we open the newspaper. But one thing is that I do is I don't open the newspaper first thing in the morning. That just I would just would not do that. I mean, I'll look at it during the day. I'll see what's the latest thing, but I wouldn't let that. Um, for me, uh, I want to touch the deepest peace or love I can find, and joy and beauty, to get my day off in the right, to get with the right
Mhm.
feeling, and then I'm ready for the New York Times or whatever. Uh, but I'm also, just because of who I am, it's not my job to spend my whole day with the New York Times. I'm not a senator. I'm not you know, I'm not inside the Beltway making the decisions. I think of my friend Hamilton Chaifetz, who's uh, a master cellist. He he teaches at Portland State. He's a little bit older than me. He's probably played the cello 4 to 6 hours a day, more or less every day since he was 10 years old. So I think, well, that's what he was supposed to do, and he's taught music to all these other people. And if you say, well, but Hamilton, what are you doing about, to oppose the war, the latest war? And, maybe he goes to demonstrations, I don't know, but he's been doing his job, uh, like just bringing beauty into the world all day long, every day, and teaching other people how to do that. So I think that's you could think of that as a form of resistance to the status, to that other thing, that hatred and violence and bigotry that we see. Um, and that's kind of, I'm kind of interested in uh, well, a phrase that I use is culture that nurtures. I think that's what culture is supposed to do to us. And if we've got all these things that are so screwed up, like Milt mentioned the prison system, uh, how could that be? Why is that? There's something wrong at some more fundamental level. And in the most kind of cliched way, you would say there's just not enough love. And that's I mean, for me, that's uh, like I think that artists have a responsibility to um, nurture. I don't know what's good in us, and I've had periods in my life where I was kind of a political activist, but in my old age, that doesn't appeal that much. But I'm quite happy that many other people are putting their time and energy into that. But I'm more just because of who I am. I'm just more intrigued with uh, the the creating or I guess I should say co-creating with other people who. I mean, the way that you spent your day, Paula, it just sounds like it's like filled with love, and and those, I don't have that many days left, and those are the kind of days I'd rather have than because I think somehow mysteriously, I mean, this was a question back in the Vietnam War days, like, why did anybody even want to go in the first place? Like, why would anybody even think of that or do that? Seems so bewildering to me, and still is. But somehow, for millions of guys, they just didn't want to go and wouldn't go because they just didn't want to kill anyone and they just weren't going to do it. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, why. I don't know why that's not everybody's. Uh, join the ICE police, $60,000 sign up bonus. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. So somehow there's been this gets back to Milt's point, I think, is that there's a kind of cultural failure that we aren't a more loving society. Uh, but each of us, I think, in our own ways, is working on that. You know.
Here's what I try to live by. You're familiar with it, I think. It's an essence of prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things. How's it go? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's a premise that I came away with from after spending 2 weeks in basically in a medical institution in Arizona when I was going through a really rough patch. And I was some more bombastic. I was, yeah, couldn't understand how some people would make certain decisions. And the leader of the particular group that I was part of, she says, because I always kind of wondered, how come people back away? And she says, because you're astral bright, Paul. Your whole life and your whole energy function is in astral bright. And I had to think, so what's astral bright? And then she held up, this is the colors, just intense colors. She says, I want you to practice being a pastel for a while. And that's kind of brought me back to along with retiring early and having to focus on some major medical challenges. But I think, I kind of enjoy floating downstream a whole lot more than I do paddling like hell trying to go upstream. And so I think a lot of what we're seeing today, especially here in this country, is we're seeing the impacts and the effects of history. You know, when the people that came here initially were probably not the most benevolent individuals.
Right.
If they were, they wouldn't have come here. They would have stayed where they were. And so it's interesting how that energy becomes ingrained in culture, and then that culture has varying degrees of extremity. And I think today we're seeing some tremendous extremes.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer as to how to deal with it. I was intrigued with the effort and your work in the prison system, and it reminded me of when I was a kid showing livestock at a state fair in Walla Walla, where a major prison is for Washington State. And the at that time, the penitentiary had a very active farm and dairy operation in which they grew a lot of the food that was used at the prison.
Yeah.
And the dairy provided a lot of milk and cheese and other things for the prison. But what the dairy had was, or what the pen had, was a string of dairy cows, show cattle, that they brought to the fair.
Uh-huh.
And I always remember as a kid just being, wow, these are prisoners. They obviously have been able to kind of find their way, and so they're living out their prison sentence, but they're being able to be still constructive
Yeah.
and helpful. And I found them to be just incredible individuals who took the time to visit with us, inquiring little kids.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've lost. The culture of the prison system radically changed, and it is what it is today. I'm not sure it's any better.
Well, there's a friend of mine getting out of prison on April 15th after 17 years. Uh, he's at a prison in Salem right now, but he was at the prison in Pendleton
Yeah.
couple of years ago. And while he was there, he worked in the greenhouse, and he was one of the people who helped raise tons of food for that for the men to eat. And also, one of his other jobs that he had while he was there was training dogs for blind people. So I have a picture of him with six puppies climbing all over him, and he had a 12-hour shift where he was in charge of six puppies. So, you know, there are,
That's good to hear,
yeah, there are
actually.
bright spots. I mean, the thing is, we all kind of generalize about how messed up our society is, but there's so many good people. There's so many good things happening. Uh, I think we need to to keep that in mind because they're not in our they aren't shown to us in the same way. But I think it must be so. And Victoria wanted to say something, and also Paula had something, and then we went to Paul instead of Paula. So Victoria, or do you want to say something?
Paula, you can go ahead, and if there's time, yeah.
Actually, I don't really, I'd rather listen. Although I just wanted to thank you, Johnny, for your reflection back. Um, yeah, that's about it. I'd rather listen at this point. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, you didn't. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Victoria.
Oh boy, Johnny, I just really appreciate your flow. It feels like you just kind of flow through the day. And I, so I have a friend that I talk about non-duality things with. So it sounds like that's something you're aware of or that
Sure.
so I'd like to hear your words about that. But the phrase that comes up that I really love, I think, detached, affectionate awareness, and that what that means to me, and where I guess I try to, I guess my underlying question here somehow is being more able to um, not get hooked in to how awful things are, or just not even trying not to give my energy to that, acknowledging it. Maybe I really kind of try to stay away from the news, but being my current effort is to how can I bring more love energy rather than buying into the fear energy or the resentment or the judgment. And I guess, and so this phrase, detached affection and awareness, when I kind of try to feel into that, it does feel like it lifts where I'm operating from. But I guess I would like to understand more about how you do that, and or if you do that, and what your thoughts are about holding the awareness of non-duality while in this very, three dimension. Oh,
Yeah. Well, one of the things about silence is that there are no problems. You know, if you're sitting in silence, I mean, there may be problems in the world, but in terms of your awareness, what you're aware of, um, uh, there isn't any conflict. And so I think that a silent mind, uh, again, is not it's not a big deal, but it's an important deal. Uh, and when we use language, we're immediately in the realm of duality
mm,
because we're speaking to someone, and the way that everything works is uh, by contrasts and so it's kind of I just finished reading William James's Variety of Religious Experience, and that's a wonderful book. And one of the things he's talking about when he talks about mysticism is that one thing that is universally agreed by all religious mystics in every tradition from every century is you can't put it into words. You know, you can't explain it. And the most beautiful moments, the what I was calling the perfect moments, when you notice the sunrise in the morning or sound of the birds singing in the morning, um, those perfect moments can't be described. So non what you might call non-duality is a very, very common experience. But if you wanted to explain non-duality, it's impossible because, you're in the a dualistic realm when you're talking. So I guess it's just uh, for me appreciating those moments that they can't be described. I mean, you can't describe the aroma of coffee. You can't really describe anything. Uh, as for kind of staying cheerful in a troubled world, another idea I got very strongly from William James is that people have different temperaments. And some people are, as it turns out, naturally cheerful. And there's nothing actually wrong with them. They're not half-wits, they're not idiots. Uh, but it comes easily to them. And I think of the waitresses, who come up to you and go like, "What can I get you, darling?" And they're just nice to everybody all day long, day after day. And it's not fake. It's completely friendly but not every waitress is like that, but you run into them sometimes. And they you could say they learned a secret that if you're friendly and nice to everybody, everybody's going to be friendly and nice back to you, and your whole life will be much more pleasant. But they didn't necessarily calculate that. They might have just been what you might call a naturally happy person. And some people tend to be like naturally melancholy. And I don't think that one uh, kind of temperament is superior to the other. I think each one of us is trying to do the best we can with the life we have. And we all, one way or another, have to accept the world as it is, because it is. And that involves, sadness uh, at the tragedy and the suffering. Uh, but I, for me, Campbell's idea of joyful participation in the sorrows of the world uh, makes sense to me. And Thich Nhat Hanh is another person that I return to again and again because I just find him very helpful. And he's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. He's got many, many books, but and he died a couple of years ago. Uh, but he was a very cheerful man. And he taught people about happiness and about love and all those things. Uh, and if you think, well, like, how is Thich Nhat Hanh happy?
Mm.
Um, he's not from Lake Oswego, you know. He didn't have like a fun life, playing in the meadow. Uh, he One of the things that when the war was going on, he and his fellow monks would sing to keep up their spirits as they were stacking up bodies to be cremated. So, in other words, he's not like he doesn't know about how cruel people can be to each other and how bad things can be. Like he really had a front row seat. And yet, um, I think he he found happiness from his Buddhist practice, I suppose, but also maybe partly just his natural inclination. Uh, but then, if you think about it, uh, he's bringing uh, that smile and that friendliness to to everyone he meets. Even though I mean, he's not. he's not unaware, uh, but he feels that, and I kind of feel that the healing that's needed uh, can come from a kind of joyous, optimistic spirit. Uh, and the there is so much more going on at any given moment than what we read about. I mean, there's maybe five countries that we read about. We read about Gaza, Lebanon, Israel, United States, Russia, China, like, I don't know, there's 10 countries. But there's 150 countries. What's happening in Argentina? Nobody knows, you know? Uh, so it's all been kind of narrowed down, and it's focused on the worst things that are happening, and they are happening, and they're really bad. And if we could stop them, we should. Um, but uh, but but I don't think those things, that violence, is more real than the 2-year-olds that Paula got to play with. I mean, I think her experience, and so those experiences, I don't, for me, that doesn't, it doesn't constitute an escape from the reality of the bad news. Because I don't think that the news is more real. So I think, uh, but I mean, many people do think about it, that it if you're not talking about it and you're not thinking about it, you are it's actually immoral. You're in denial, or you're it's some kind of escapism. But uh, I don't look at it that way. Yeah, Darlene.
So I identify with the fact that the news is grim, and for a period of about 3 months, a group of monks walked from Texas to Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Totally impressive. I watched them as they went through each, but it's not in the news. It
Yeah.
wasn't never in the news. But I watched it because I was following it, and
Yeah.
and it was very inspiring and very meaningful to me, and I'm sure for everyone who was along the path
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
those monks.
Yeah. That's
So
a
there's good out there.
For sure.
We just have to look for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what was
And
happening
and
in
and
Minneapolis?
actually, there's more good. There's a lot more good than there is hatred and fear and all that, in my view. And but even if there was, even if it was like 99% fear, hatred, and bullshit, I'd want to be the 1% of happy idiots.
Yeah, right.
Just selfishly.
Oh. What was happening in Minneapolis was an example of that. There was all this, horrible, cruel ICE stuff going on, and the community responded with love and singing and art in the park and,
Yeah.
ice carvings in the park and
Yeah.
taking care of their neighbors. They call it neighboring.
That's and in Portland, the frogs saved us.
The dressed up ones.
Yeah, the frogs. The administration was saying that Portland's a war zone, it's a dangerous place, and we need to send in the troops. And then they show the video footage, and there's people in frog costumes and dinosaur costumes and unicorn costumes, and that went out all over the world. It completely refuted that narrative that they were trying to create. And so I was very grateful to the frogs. And the next No Kings March was full of people in costumes, and it seemed like the good old hippie days. It was a really good vibe.
Johnny, thank you so much. That just the energy of the exchange. I can so uplifting. And I was recalling a mediation. This is decades ago. That was being led by a man who it was to hear the still small voice, what he called the still small voice. And he asked us this question to just ponder what radical love is. And what came to my mind was radical safety. And in part, I just the to calm the sympathetic nervous system, the amygdala. And so anyway, I just in my mind, you kind of bring that, your your energy kind of brings that and just allows people to just be regain their buoyancy. So thank you so much.
It's a nice way to say it.
Mm.
Well said, Victoria. Yeah, I feel restored. Thank you, Johnny.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed meeting you all. And
Yeah.
well, you know, uh, my friends, after the 2024 election, um, they were really like, we've got to do something. What can we do? What can we do? We've got to do something. Anybody idea? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. We've got to do something. And I thought, well, wait a second. I mean, look around you right now at the people in this circle. We've all spent our adult lives doing our best. It's not me. I mean, we're all promoting peace and love and happiness and understanding to the best of our ability. And I feel like, we all felt discouraged, like, hey, we lost. I mean, we've been doing this for 50 years, and they elected that guy, like, what the hell? But for me, I don't feel like, my God, we've got to start doing something. We've been doing it, and we are doing, and we will continue to. And if we want to turn up you know, the our energy, if we want to do a little bit more, or turn up our focus or intensity, good, but uh, and I think that uh, it's mysterious that so many people all the time are all working on the healing, on the improving, on the fixing, on the making, on the goodness. That's what everybody's doing all day long, all over the world. But the uh, one idiot, like, to take one example, it seemed like Putin, one guy, decided to start that war in Ukraine. It was his decision. There's millions of people in Russia, but one guy thinks that that's a good idea, and then all the soldiers go in, and all the killing, and all the refugees, and all the suffering, and that's fucked up. That one, that the violence can wreck so much, and then all the people, they were all patching them up, with the Red Cross, and everybody is, and the World Central Kitchen is bringing in meals, and everybody's doing their best to kind of get things, some semblance of uh, but it just doesn't seem fair that the the bad actors can cause so much damage to so many people. Uh, but and goodness and love they're more subtle. They're just working, quietly in everybody's lives. But but I so don't envy those guys. That, let's say, the administration. I'm so happy that I'm not part of that bullshit. I'm so so fortunate that I, uh, get to have a different kind of life, and so that all that power and all that money, they don't even. Uh,
Mhm.
it, there's no, I don't see any appeal that I feel like rich in friendship, and and your circle is a circle of friends, and that's the best thing in the world. So Dottie, thank you for uh you know yeah for keeping the circle going and nurturing these friendships and these bonds of affection and understanding, and there's nothing more important in my view.
And thank you. And
Thanks
thank you
for
all for
having me.
coming and participating. Thank you, Johnny. We really appreciate your wisdom. And I recommend his book. If you want to, it's, where is it? I was trying to get the title. It's called Nonstop Love-In. And I'll put the link for ordering the book when I send out the link for the video. But it's easy read. You just open a page and there's some little story or poem or something that are really quite wonderful. So anyway, thank you, Johnny. And you can sign up for his newsletter and find out all the little things they do, the programs they have at the Tabor Center. I guess, is that where you always have your programs?
Tabor Space, yeah, I've been doing a lot of things there, yeah, in Southeast Portland.
Yeah.
And
And you have others?
Huh?
oh,
What, what, Victoria?
I just was going to recommend his, what do you call it, Johnny? The your encyclopedia thing. What do you call that?
Oh,
That thing.
yes, right. Yeah,
Encyclopedia Jonica. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
that.
yeah.
there's some
Right.
there's some excerpts from it in the book that Dottie has. Uh,
Yeah,
well, Dottie, thanks for doing this for nurturing a circle of friendship. It's wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great.
Amen, Dottie.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, friends.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
See you
How do we
next.
find out about the
Bye.
Tabor Space part?
Um, uh, if you um, if you email me at stallingsjohnny@gmail.com, I can put you on the email list for my nonprofit organization called the Open Road, and that would keep you up to a date with events that we're doing. And we publish a monthly journal called Peace, Love, Happiness, and Understanding, and there's a whole archive of it on the website and stuff like that. So
Stallings
And there's a
Johnny at
link for
gmail.com.
both his personal website and what did you just say? The
the Open Road.
Open Road. There's for both of those websites on the email that I sent out
Okay.
for the
Thank
notice
you.
of the meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All
thanks
right.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank
everybody.
you so
Good
much.
night. See you
Good
next month.
night. Bye-bye.